When Dr. Evelina Corsa stood at her mother's grave, 8 months pregnant and drowning in rain, she didn't expect her husband to hand her divorce papers. She didn't expect him to call her mother a traitor. And she definitely didn't expect the bullet that would come 5 years later, the one meant for her heart that he'd take instead. But between that funeral and that bullet, she built an empire from nothing, raised twins in hiding, and became the ghost that haunted every man who'd ever underestimated her. Stay until the end to see how a broken woman becomes unbreakable. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Quote, "The rain came down like punishment." Evelina Corsa stood at the edge of the open grave, one hand pressed against the swell of her belly, the other clutching a black umbrella that did nothing against the sideways sheets of water. The cemetery stretched out in every direction, gray headstones disappearing into mist, and somewhere beyond the trees, New York hummed with indifferent life. Here, there was only mud and silence, and the preacher's voice droning through words that meant nothing. Her mother's casket sat suspended over the hole, dark wood gleaming wet. Elena Russo had been 62. A stroke, they said. Quick. Painless. Evelina knew better. She'd examined enough bodies in the ER to recognize the signs everyone else missed. The faint discoloration around the hairline, the slightly dilated pupils in the morgue photos she'd demanded to see. The timeline that didn't quite add up. Her mother had been healthy, active. And then, one morning, she was just gone. But standing here, grief pressed so heavy into her chest she could barely breathe, Evelina had no proof. Only instinct. Only the sick certainty that her mother's death wasn't an accident. The twins kicked inside her, a double flutter against her ribs. She was 31 weeks along, twin girls. She pressed her palm firmer against her stomach, as if she could shield them from all of this. The rain, the death, the growing darkness she felt creeping at the edges of her life. Evelina. She turned. Roman Vale stood 3 feet away, water streaming off his shoulders. He didn't carry an umbrella, didn't seem to notice the rain at all. His suit was black, perfectly tailored, and his dark eyes were unreadable in the gray light. He was 42, 12 years older than her, and handsome in the way dangerous things often are. Sharp jaw, controlled posture, the kind of presence that made rooms go quiet. He was also her husband, and he was looking at her like she was a stranger. "We need to talk," he said. Something in his tone made her stomach drop. "Now?" "Now." She glanced back at the grave. The preacher had finished. The few mourners who'd come, colleagues from the hospital, neighbors, a handful of her mother's book club friends, were drifting toward their cars, heads down against the weather. "Roman, my mother's funeral is over." He pulled an envelope from inside his jacket. Heavy paper, expensive, the kind lawyers used. "Sign these." Evelina stared at the envelope. Water dripped from its edges. "What is that?" "Divorce papers." The words didn't land right. She heard them, but they didn't connect to anything real. "What?" "You're going to sign them, today." Her hand tightened on the umbrella handle. "I don't understand." "Your mother was a traitor." His voice was flat, factual. "She sold information to the Volkov family for 18 months, got 3 of my men killed, almost got me killed." The ground seemed to tilt. "That's insane. I have proof." "Then it's fake." Evelina's voice came out sharper than she intended. "My mother would never—" "She did." Roman stepped closer. Rain plastered his dark hair to his forehead. "And you knew." "I didn't know anything because there's nothing to know. Roman, listen to yourself." "I've listened enough." He held out the envelope. "You're exactly like her. I see that now. All the questions you asked about my work, all the late-night hospital shifts that gave you access to people I do business with. I'm a trauma surgeon. My shifts are always late. I treat everyone who comes through those doors, you know that. I know you played me." Something cracked in his controlled expression. Not anger. Worse. Disgust. "For 3 years I trusted you, gave you everything, and you've been bleeding information the whole time." Evelina's heart hammered. This wasn't happening. Couldn't be happening. "I love you." "You're a liar." "Roman, please." She reached for his arm, but he jerked back like her touch burned. "Whatever you think my mother did, whatever you think I did, it's wrong. Someone's lying to you. Victor brought me the evidence himself. Recordings. financial transfers. Your mother's voice on tape, clear as day. Roman's jaw tightened. And payments to an account in your name. I don't have any account except the one in the Caymans, the one with $800,000 that appeared over the last year and a half. Her mouth went dry. I've never opened an account in the Caymans. I don't even know how. Sign the papers, Evelina. No. Her voice shook. Not until you actually look at me and see that I'm telling the truth. For a second, something flickered in his eyes, something that might have been doubt, but then his face went hard again, and she realized with creeping horror that he'd already made his decision. Maybe days ago. Maybe weeks. This conversation was just a formality. If you don't sign, Roman said quietly, I'll make sure you lose your medical license. I'll make sure no hospital in this country ever hires you again. I'll make sure you have nothing. The twins kicked again, harder this time. Evelina's free hand moved instinctively to her belly. I'm carrying your children. Are you? The question hit like a slap. How dare you? Her voice came out shaking. How dare you stand here at my mother's grave and I want a paternity test. Evelina couldn't breathe. The umbrella slipped from her hand, clattering against a headstone. Rain soaked through her hair, her coat, but she barely felt it. You think I cheated on you? I think I don't know who you are. You know exactly who I am. You've known me for 4 years, been married to me for 3. I knew a lie. Roman pushed the envelope into her hands. Sign them. Walk away. If the twins are mine, we'll arrange something. If they're not, I never want to see you again. Evelina looked down at the envelope. Her hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. Behind Roman, near the cemetery gates, she caught sight of a black Mercedes. Victor Soren leaned against it, watching them. Even from this distance, she could see the small smile on his face. Victor. Roman's right hand for 15 years. His most trusted advisor. The man who'd brought the evidence. And in that moment, standing in the rain with her world disintegrating, Evelina understood. This was a setup. She didn't know why yet, didn't know how. But Victor had done this. Orchestrated her mother's death, fabricated the evidence, poisoned Roman against her. And she had no way to prove it. Not here, not now. Not 8 months pregnant and completely alone. If I sign, she said slowly, what happens? You leave, today. Take whatever you can carry. The apartment, the cars, the accounts, all of it stays. And the babies? Roman's expression didn't change. We'll discuss that after the paternity test. He didn't believe they were his. After 3 years of marriage, of sharing a bed and a life, he looked at her pregnant body and saw evidence of betrayal instead of the daughters they'd planned for, hoped for. Evelina wanted to scream, wanted to grab him and shake him until he saw reason. But she'd been a surgeon long enough to recognize when a patient was too far gone. Sometimes you couldn't save them. Sometimes you had to step back and let the damage run its course. She pulled a pen from her coat pocket. Her hand steadied as she clicked it open. A surgeon's hands, trained not to shake even when everything else was falling apart. You'll regret this, she said quietly. I already regret ever meeting you. Evelina signed her name at the bottom of the first page, then the second, then the third. Her signature looked strange through the rain-spotted ink, but it was legible enough, legal enough. When she finished, she shoved the papers back at him. There, you're free. Roman took them without a word. For just a second, he looked at her, really looked, like he was searching for something. But whatever he was looking for, he didn't find it. He turned and walked away. Evelina stood alone beside her mother's grave, rain pouring down, one hand on her belly and the other hanging empty at her side. She watched Roman reach the Mercedes, watched Victor open the door for him, watched them drive away through the cemetery gates. Then she looked down at the casket. I'll find out what happened to you, she whispered, and I'll make them pay for it, all of them. The gravediggers were waiting at a respectful distance, shovels in hand. Evelina picked up her umbrella, straightened her shoulders, and walked back to her car. A modest sedan she'd bought with her own salary, the one thing Roman couldn't take from her. She had no home to go to, no money beyond the few thousand in her personal checking account, no family left, no husband, just the clothes on her back and 2 babies who'd be born into nothing. But she was still breathing, and she was still a surgeon, which meant she knew exactly how to cut out a cancer. 3 weeks later, the motel room smelled like cigarettes and industrial cleaner. Evelina sat on the edge of the sagging mattress, her hands folded over her belly, and stared at the water stain on the ceiling. It looked like a map of something. Some country she'd never been to. She'd been here 17 days. The Starlight Motor Lodge off Route 9 in New Jersey, $60 a night, paid in cash. The woman at the front desk didn't ask questions. Evelina checked in under the name Sarah Chen, showed a fake ID she'd bought from a hospital orderly who had a side business in such things, and disappeared into room 14. Her phone sat on the nightstand, turned off. She'd stopped carrying it after the second day when she realized Roman could track it, could find her, could take the babies before they were even born. The paternity test. He'd actually demanded a paternity test. Evelina pressed her hands harder against her stomach, feeling the kicks and rolls beneath her skin. Twin A was breech. Twin B was transverse, both stubborn, both strong. She had an OB appointment scheduled at a free clinic in Newark under her fake name. No one there knew she was a surgeon. She was just another struggling mother-to-be trying to stay healthy on no insurance and less hope. She'd cried for the first week, sobbed until her throat was raw and her eyes swelled shut, grieved for her mother, for her marriage, for the life she'd thought she was building. Then she'd stopped crying and started thinking. Someone had framed her mother. Someone had framed her. Someone had built an elaborate lie and fed it to Roman piece by piece until he believed his wife was a traitor. Victor Sorin. It had to be Victor. But why? Evelina had spent the last week mapping it out on notebook paper spread across the motel bed. Victor had been with Roman since the beginning, back when Roman was just a mid-level enforcer working his way up. They'd built the organization together. Roman as the face, the strategist, the leader, Victor as the handler, the fixer, the man who made problems disappear. What did Victor gain from destroying her? She didn't know yet, but she'd figure it out. A knock on the door made her freeze. Evelina sat perfectly still, barely breathing. It was 9 at night. No one knew she was here. No one should be knocking. Another knock. Dr. Corsa? Her blood went cold. That voice. She knew that voice. Slowly she stood and crossed to the door, looked through the peephole. A woman stood in the fluorescent light outside, mid-50s, gray hair pulled into a neat bun, wearing a wool coat despite the mild October weather. Evelina had seen her before, at the hospital. One of the social workers, maybe. Or, no, not a social worker. A lawyer. Evelina opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. How did you find me? The woman smiled faintly. Your mother was careful, but she wasn't perfect. She held up a manila envelope. My name is Margaret Lowe. I was your mother's attorney for 20 years, and before she died, she left me something to give to you. Evelina let her in. Margaret sat in the room's only chair while Evelina perched on the bed, the envelope unopened on her lap. The lawyer looked around the dingy room with no visible judgment, then met Evelina's eyes. Your mother came to see me 6 weeks before she died, Margaret said. She told me she was in danger, that if anything happened to her, I was to wait exactly 3 weeks and then find you. 3 weeks, Evelina repeated. Why 3 weeks? She said you'd need time to grieve, to be angry, to find your footing. She said if I came too soon, you'd break. And Elena didn't raise a daughter who breaks. Evelina's throat tightened. She knew she was going to die. She suspected someone was going to kill her, yes. Did she say who? Margaret hesitated. Open the envelope. Evelina's hand shook as she broke the seal. Inside was a USB drive, a handwritten letter, and a key. She unfolded the letter first. Her mother's handwriting sprawled across the page. Messy, urgent, so familiar it hurt to look at. My darling Evelina, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you the truth while I was alive. I tried to protect you by keeping you in the dark, but I see now that was a mistake. Darkness doesn't protect anyone. It just makes the monsters harder to see. Everything you need is on the USB drive. Financial records, recordings, proof of what Victor Sorin has been doing for the last 5 years. He's been stealing from Roman. Millions of dollars, piece by piece, funneled through shell companies and offshore accounts. And when Roman started getting suspicious, Victor created a diversion. He framed me, made it look like I was the traitor. I found out 2 months ago, started gathering evidence to bring to Roman myself, but Victor found out I knew. I think he poisoned me, sweetheart. I think he put something in my coffee when I met him to talk things through. I've felt wrong ever since. Dizzy, confused. My doctor says it's just stress, but I know my own body. I know I'm dying. The key opens a safe deposit box at First National Bank in White Plains. Box 447. Inside is $800,000 in cash. It's not the money Victor stole. It's money I've been saving for 20 years. Money your father left us before he died. I never touched it because I wanted you to have it someday. For medical school. For your future. Victor created that Cayman account in your name. He forged your signature. The money in it is stolen, and it's meant to make you look guilty. Don't touch it. Don't acknowledge it. It's a trap. Take the cash from the safe deposit box. Take the evidence on the USB drive. And run, Evelina. Run far and fast. Change your name. Disappear. Protect those babies. Don't try to fight Victor. Don't try to clear my name or yours. He's too powerful, too connected. Roman will never believe you over him. Just run. Live. Be happy. I love you more than anything in this world. You were the best thing I ever did. Mom. Evelina read the letter twice, then a third time. Her hands had stopped shaking. Her mind was already working, processing, planning. Margaret watched her carefully. Your mother wanted you to run. I know. Will you? Evelina looked up. Her eyes were dry, clear. No. Dr. Corsa killed my mother. He destroyed my marriage. He tried to make me look like a criminal. Evelina's voice was calm, surgical. And you think I should run away and let him win? I think you should survive. You're 8 months pregnant with twins. You have no resources, no allies, no... I have $800,000. Evelina held up the key. I have evidence, and I have time. Victor Sorin is one of the most dangerous men in New York. I'm aware. If you go after him, he'll kill you. Not if I'm smart. Evelina stood, tucking the letter and USB drive back into the envelope. Not if I'm patient. Margaret studied her for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Your mother also left you this. A contact. Someone she trusted. Evelina took the card. The name on it read James Hawthorne, private investigator. Below it, a phone number, nothing else. He specializes in financial crimes, Margaret said. Corporate espionage, money laundering. He's discreet, expensive, and very good at finding things people don't want found. Did my mother hire him? She consulted with him, paid him a retainer. He's expecting your call. Evelina slipped the card into her pocket. Thank you for coming. I hope you'll reconsider. Margaret stood, gathering her coat. Your mother wanted you safe. My mother wanted me alive. There's a difference. At the door, Margaret paused. She was proud of you, you know. She used to say you had your father's heart and her spine, that you were going to change the world. I'm just going to change a few lives, starting with my own. Margaret left without another word. Evelina locked the door behind her, then sat back down on the bed. She pulled out the USB drive and turned it over in her hands. This was it. The proof. The truth. But proof didn't matter if no one would listen. Roman believed Victor, trusted him completely. Whatever was on this drive, Roman would find a way to dismiss it, explain it away, convince himself it was fabricated. Because accepting the truth meant accepting that he'd been played for years, that he'd destroyed his marriage over a lie, that he'd sent away his pregnant wife based on nothing but Victor's word. Men like Roman didn't admit mistakes like that. So Evelina couldn't just show him the evidence. She had to make him see it himself, make him discover it, make him feel the betrayal firsthand, make him understand exactly what it was like to trust someone completely, and then watch that trust curdle into poison. But first, she had to survive. She had to give birth, hide, build a new identity, get strong. And then she'd burn Victor Sorin's world to the ground. Evelina placed one hand on her belly, feeling the steady kicks of her daughters. "We're going to be okay," she whispered. "I promise. Mommy's going to make everything okay." Outside, a car door slammed. Voices drifted through the thin walls. Life continuing, oblivious. Evelina reached for the notebook and began to write. 5 weeks later. The twins came early. Evelina woke at 3 in the morning in a studio apartment in Queens, her water broken and contractions already 5 minutes apart. She'd moved here from the motel 2 weeks ago, a sublet under another fake name, paid for with cash from the safe deposit box. James Hawthorne had arranged it. Arranged everything, actually. The apartment, the new ID, the offshore accounts where she'd stashed the money in pieces, layered through enough legal entities that even if someone found it, they couldn't trace it back to her. He was expensive, but he was worth it. Now, lying in the dark with pain ripping through her abdomen, Evelina fumbled for her phone and dialed the car service number he'd given her. "I need to go to Queens General," she gasped. "Now." The driver arrived in 12 minutes. Evelina timed her contractions the whole way, breathing through them with the focused control she'd learned in medical school. In another life, she would have been the one delivering these babies, standing calm and confident in scrubs, talking a frightened mother through the hardest thing she'd ever do. Instead, she was the frightened mother. They admitted her at 4. By 6, she was fully dilated. By 7, the first baby was crowning. "You're doing great," the midwife said. One more push. Evelina bore down, and the world exploded into pain and pressure, and then suddenly, release. A thin, furious wail filled the room. "It's a girl," the midwife announced, holding up a tiny, squirming thing covered in vernix and blood. "Perfect." Evelina started crying. 17 minutes later, the second baby came. Smaller, quieter, but just as perfect. 2 daughters. 4 pounds 6 ounces and 4 pounds 2 ounces. Breathing on their own, crying, alive. The nurse placed them both on Evelina's chest, skin to skin, and for the first time in 2 months, she felt something other than rage or grief or fear. She felt hope. "Do you have names picked out?" the nurse asked gently. Evelina looked down at the tiny faces pressed against her. One had Roman's dark hair, the other had her mother's delicate nose. "Arya," she whispered, "and Elena." Beautiful names. They were, and they were hers, only hers. She'd listed no father on the birth certificates, used her fake identity, Sarah Chen's daughters, not Evelina Corsa's, not Roman Vale's, hidden. Safe. Evelina stayed in the hospital for 3 days. When they discharged her, James Hawthorne was waiting in the lobby with 2 car seats already installed in his vehicle, a lawyer with custody paperwork, and an envelope containing new Social Security cards for both babies. "You work fast," Evelina said. "You pay well." He looked at the twins sleeping in their carriers. "They're beautiful. They're everything." James drove her back to the apartment, helped her carry everything upstairs, set up the portable cribs he'd bought and assembled while she was in the hospital. When they were alone, he handed her a folder. "The financial analysis you asked for. Victor Soren's been stealing from your ex-husband for 6 years, not 5. Total estimated theft, $14 million. He's been extremely careful. Moved money through 17 different shell companies, 6 countries, dozens of accounts. But I found the pattern." Evelina flipped through the pages. Numbers, dates, transactions, a web so complex it would take a forensic accountant months to untangle. "Can you prove it?" she asked. "In court? Maybe, with enough time and resources. But men like Roman Vale don't take people to court." "No," Evelina agreed. "They don't." "What are you planning?" She looked up. James was watching her with something like concern. He was 58, former FBI, now freelance. Her mother had chosen well. "I'm going to take everything from him," Evelina said quietly, "the same way he took everything from me." "Victor?" "Eventually. But first I need to build something. A network, a business, power. With $800,000 and 2 newborns. With intelligence and patience, and the fact that everyone underestimates a woman who's been thrown away." James studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "What do you need from me?" Information, connections, and silence. You have all three. Good. Evelina closed the folder. Behind her, one of the twins started fussing. She turned to pick her up. Arya, she thought, though they were so similar it was hard to tell, and cradled her against her shoulder. There's one more thing, James said. Your husband, ex-husband, he's been looking for you. Evelina's pulse jumped. How hard? Not very. Hired a mid-level PI. The guy's competent but not brilliant. I've been feeding him false trails. Last I checked, he thinks you're in California. Does he know about the twins? No, he doesn't even know you've given birth. Good. That was good. Keep it that way, Evelina said. For how long? She looked down at Arya's tiny face, then over at Elena, sleeping peacefully in her crib. 5 pounds of potential. 5 pounds of reasons to be ruthless. 5 years, Evelina said. Maybe more. Until I'm ready. Ready for what? She met his eyes. To make him watch everything he loves fall apart. The same way I did. James didn't flinch. Didn't try to talk her out of it. He just nodded once, stood, and headed for the door. I'll be in touch, he said. When he was gone, Evelina sat in the rocking chair James had bought, Arya warm and solid against her chest, and looked around the tiny apartment. One room, peeling paint, a view of a brick wall. This was her empire now. This was her kingdom. And from here, she would build something that would make Roman Vale's world look small. She just had to be patient and very, very smart. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, Evelina began to plan. The twins turned 6 months old on a Tuesday. Evelina celebrated by signing the lease on a small office space in Midtown Manhattan. 2 rooms, bad lighting, a view of an air shaft. The landlord barely glanced at her fake ID before handing over the keys. Cash paid 3 months in advance had a way of making people incurious. She set up a desk, 2 chairs, and a laptop. Hung a generic print on the wall. The sign on the door read Chen Consulting Services, vague enough to mean anything, specific enough to sound legitimate. By Wednesday, she had her first client. His name was David Park, and he owned a chain of dry cleaners in Brooklyn that was drowning in debt. He'd found her through a referral from James Hawthorne, who'd vouched for her financial analysis skills without mentioning her real name or background. I need someone to look at my books, David said, spreading papers across her desk. Figure out where the money's going. My accountant says I'm bleeding cash, but the numbers don't make sense. Evelina pulled the papers closer, studied them with the same focus she used to study CT scans. Within 20 minutes, she'd found the problem. Your accountant is stealing from you, she said. See these vendor payments? Half of them are going to companies that don't exist. He's created fake invoices and pocketing the difference. David's face went pale. How much? Conservatively? 40,000 over the last year? Jesus Christ. Fire him. File a police report. Get a lawyer. Evelina pushed the papers back across the desk. And find a new accountant who isn't a thief. David stared at her. How did you figure that out in 20 minutes? Pattern recognition. Numbers either make sense or they don't. Yours didn't. He hired her on the spot. Paid her $5,000 to do a complete audit and help him restructure his finances. It took Evelina 3 weeks, working late at night after the twins were asleep. When she finished, David's business was solvent again. Word spread. By the time the twins were 9 months old, Evelina had 17 clients. Small business owners, mostly. People who needed help untangling messy finances or identifying fraud or restructuring debt. She was good at it, better than good. She had a surgeon's precision and a survivor's ruthlessness, and she charged half what the big consulting firms did. The money started coming in. Not millions, but enough. Enough to move to a better apartment in a safer neighborhood. Enough to hire a part-time nanny so she could work more hours. Enough to build something real. She kept her real identity buried, stayed off social media, paid for everything in cash or through accounts tied to her fake name. James Hawthorne checked in every few weeks, bringing updates on Roman's world and feeding false information to the PI who was still supposedly looking for her. He stopped searching, James told her one afternoon, sitting in her office while the twins napped in a playpen in the corner. The investigator closed the case 6 weeks ago, told Roman you probably left the country. Does he believe it? Seems to. He's moved on. There's a new woman, younger, some socialite. Evelina felt nothing. No jealousy, no pain. That part of her had burned away in the rain at her mother's grave. "What about Victor?" she asked. James pulled out a folder. "Still robbing him blind. I've tracked another 2 million in the last year. Victor's getting bolder, less careful." "Good. Confident people make mistakes. What's your timeline on this?" Evelina looked at the twins. Arya was chewing on a stuffed rabbit. Elena was asleep, one tiny fist pressed against her cheek. They looked like Roman, both of them. Dark hair, strong features. Beautiful. "Another 4 years," she said. "Maybe 5. I need to be completely established, untouchable. When I come for Victor, I can't leave any openings." "That's a long time to wait." "I'm patient." She was. She'd learned patience in the long nights after the twins were born, when she'd walk the apartment at 3 in the morning with a screaming baby on each shoulder, so exhausted she could barely stand. Learned it in the slow, grinding work of building a business from nothing. Learned it in the careful way she had to live now, always watching, always cautious, always 3 steps ahead. The year the twins turned 2, Evelina expanded. She brought on 2 associates, both women, both brilliant, both hungry for the kind of work that traditional consulting firms wouldn't touch. Together, they started taking bigger clients, companies with real money, real problems. One of those companies belonged to Marcus Reeves. He walked into her office on a gray March morning, expensively dressed and clearly skeptical. "I was told you're the person to see about financial irregularities." "That depends on the irregularities. I own a logistics company, 30 million in annual revenue. Last quarter, we somehow lost money. My CFO says it's market conditions. I think it's bullshit." Evelina gestured to the chair. "Show me the books." It took her 4 days to find what Marcus's CFO had been hiding. He'd been selling client information to a competitor, delivery routes, pricing structures, everything. The competitor had been underbidding Marcus on every major contract for 18 months. When Evelina showed him the evidence, Marcus went silent. "How much did he make?" he finally asked. "500,000, maybe more. And your competitor has probably made 10 times that using your data. Can I prove it? In court? It would be difficult, but you don't need court." Evelina leaned back in her chair. "You need leverage." "What kind of leverage?" "The kind that makes your CFO give back every penny and your competitor crawl back begging for mercy." Marcus studied her. He was 53, self-made, and sharp enough to recognize someone who spoke his language. "You don't just analyze numbers, do you?" he said. "No. I solve problems." "How?" Evelina smiled. "Carefully." She spent the next month building a case that didn't rely on courts or lawyers. Instead, she traced the CFO's stolen money to an offshore account, identified every transaction, and created a detailed timeline of the theft. Then she approached the competitor's CEO with a simple message: return Marcus's clients and pay damages, or she'd expose the whole operation to the SEC and every major client they had. The competitor paid $2 million. Marcus fired his CFO and gave Evelina a 10% finder's fee. $200,000. It was the largest sum she'd ever made on a single job. Marcus also gave her something else: connections. "I know people," he said, shaking her hand in his office. "People who have problems like mine. People who pay well for discretion. If you want more clients like me, I can make introductions. I want them." Within 6 months, Evelina's client list had changed completely. No more dry cleaners or small restaurants. Now she worked with real estate developers, import-export firms, mid-sized manufacturers, people who operated in the gray spaces where legal and illegal blurred together, people who, in some cases, did business with Roman's organization. She was careful never to take on anyone directly connected to him, but she got close enough to start hearing things, close enough to map his network from the outside, and close enough to start planting seeds. The twins turned 3, then 4. Evelina threw birthday parties in their apartment, just the 3 of them and the nanny, eating cake and opening presents. Arya was bold and fearless, always climbing, always testing boundaries. Elena was quieter, more thoughtful, with her grandmother's habit of watching everything before deciding how to act. Neither of them asked about their father. Evelina had told them their daddy lived far away and couldn't visit. It was enough for now. Later, when they were older, she'd figure out what to tell them. The truth, maybe. or some version of it that wouldn't break their hearts. She read to them every night, taught them to count, to recognize letters, to be curious about the world, kept them safe in their small, careful life while she built an empire in the shadows. By the time they started pre-kindergarten, Evelina had 30 employees and offices in 3 cities. Chen Consulting Services had become CCS International. Her reputation in certain circles was legendary. The woman who could find anything, fix anything, make any problem disappear. She'd also become very, very rich. Not Roman-level rich, but comfortable, secure, powerful enough that people listened when she spoke, and powerful enough to start phase 2. She called James Hawthorne on a Wednesday afternoon. "I need you to find someone for me." "Who?" "A man named Thomas Garrett. He used to work for Roman, got pushed out about 3 years ago. Rumor is Victor orchestrated it." "What do you want with him?" "I want to know if he's angry enough to help me." James found him in 2 days. Thomas Garrett was living in Philadelphia, running a small security consulting firm and drinking too much. When Evelina showed up at his office unannounced, he looked at her like she was a ghost. "I know you," he said slowly. "You're Roman's ex-wife, the doctor." "Was. I'm someone else now." "What do you want?" "To offer you a job." Thomas laughed. It was a bitter sound. "I don't work for people connected to Roman Vale. I'm not connected to him. I'm working against him." That got his attention. Evelina sat down across from his desk and laid out her cards. Not all of them, just enough. "Victor Sorin has been stealing from Roman for years. Millions of dollars. He framed my mother to cover his tracks. Framed me. Destroyed my marriage to create a distraction." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Victor also destroyed you. Got you fired, blacklisted, made sure you'd never work in that world again. I looked into it. He told Roman you were skimming. You weren't. But Roman believed him because Roman always believes Victor." Thomas's jaw tightened. "You can prove that?" "I can prove all of it. The theft, the frame jobs, everything." "Then go to Roman. He won't listen. Not to me, not to you, not to anyone. Victor's had 15 years to build his credibility. We'd need a miracle to crack that." "So what's your plan?" Evelina leaned forward. "I'm going to build a case so airtight that when Roman finally sees it, he'll have no choice but to believe. But I can't do it alone. I need people inside that world, people who know how Victor operates, people who want him to burn as much as I do." "I don't have access anymore." "No, but you have knowledge, contacts, experience, and you have motivation." Thomas stared at her. "What's in it for me?" "Money, revenge, the satisfaction of watching Victor Sorin lose everything." "And what do you get?" "The same thing, plus my life back." He was quiet for a long time. Then he stood, walked to a filing cabinet, and pulled out a bottle of whiskey, poured 2 glasses. "I heard Roman divorced you while you were pregnant," he said, handing her one. "Is that true?" "Yes." "Heard he accused you of being a traitor." "Also true." "You have kids?" Evelina hesitated, then nodded. "Twin daughters, 4 years old." "Does he know?" "No." Thomas took a drink. "Good. Keep it that way. I intend to." "All right." He set down his glass. "I'm in, but I want 20% of whatever you're paying. 10%, and a consulting fee of $5,000 a month. 15% and $7,000. 12% and $6,000. Thomas smiled. It was the first genuine expression she'd seen from him. "Deal." They shook hands. Over the next year, Thomas brought in 4 more people. All of them had been burned by Victor in one way or another. All of them were willing to work in secret, building a case piece by piece. They tracked Victor's money through dozens of accounts, identified the shell companies, found the properties he'd bought under fake names, documented every theft, every lie, every manipulation. And they did it all without Roman knowing. Evelina ran the operation from her office, coordinating everything while still running her legitimate business. The twins went to school, came home, did their homework, had play dates and dance classes and all the normal things normal children did. At night, after they were asleep, Evelina worked. She built spreadsheets, reviewed evidence, planned the next move, And sometimes, late at night when the city was quiet, she'd stand at her window and look out at the lights of Manhattan and think about Roman. Did he ever think about her? Did he ever wonder where she'd gone? What had happened to the babies she'd been carrying? Did he regret it? Probably not. Men like Roman didn't waste time on regret. They made decisions and moved forward. The past was just wreckage in their wake. But soon, Evelina thought, soon he'd have to look back. Soon she'd make him. The twins turned 5 in November. This time, Evelina threw a real party. Invited their classmates from school, rented a small event space, hired a magician. Watched Arya and Elena run around with the other children, laughing and sticky with frosting. They were happy, healthy, whole. And they had no idea their mother was building a war machine in the dark. Later that night, after the party was cleaned up and the girls were asleep, Evelina sat in her home office and opened an encrypted email from Thomas. The subject line read, "We found it." She clicked it open. Inside was a single attachment, a video file. Evelina downloaded it, checked twice that her VPN was active, and pressed play. The video was grainy, clearly shot on a hidden camera. It showed Victor Soren sitting in a restaurant booth across from a man Evelina didn't recognize. They were talking quietly, but the audio was clear enough. "The shipment arrives Tuesday," the stranger said. "Same dock, same time. You get your cut as soon as it's distributed." "And Roman doesn't know about this?" Victor asked. "Roman thinks we're moving electronics. He has no idea half the containers are something else." Victor smiled. "Keep it that way. The less he knows, the more we make." The video ended. Evelina sat back, her heart pounding. This was it. Victor wasn't just stealing money, he was running a separate operation under Roman's nose. Smuggling something, drugs probably, or weapons, and pocketing the profits. This was the kind of betrayal that would destroy him. She picked up her phone and called Thomas. "Did you see it?" he asked immediately. "Yes. When was this recorded?" 2 weeks ago. My contact inside the dock operation set up the camera. There's more footage. 5 different meetings over the last month. Victor's been running the side business for at least 2 years. Does Roman have any idea? None. Victor's been cooking the books to hide it, but if someone showed Roman the evidence, he'd kill Victor himself, Evelina finished. Probably. So what's the plan? Send it to him anonymously? No, if it comes from nowhere, he'll think it's fabricated, a setup. Evelina thought for a moment. We need him to discover it himself. Make him feel like he's the one who uncovered the truth. How do we do that? We create a trail. Small inconsistencies, things that don't quite add up. We make him start asking questions, and then we make sure the questions lead him exactly where we want him to go. Thomas was quiet for a moment. That's going to take time. I know. Could take 6 months, maybe more. Then we have 6 months. Evelina. Thomas's voice was serious. Once we start this, there's no going back. Victor will realize someone's coming for him. He'll start looking, and if he finds you, he won't. You can't know that. I can. Evelina looked at the frozen frame on her screen, Victor's face, smiling and confident. Because I'm smarter than he is. I'm more patient, and I want this more than he wants to keep it. Thomas sighed. All right, I'll start planning the inconsistencies. Small ones. Things that'll make Roman's accountants do a double take. Good. And Thomas? Make sure there's nothing that leads back to us. We're ghosts in this. Understood? Understood. Evelina hung up and deleted the email, wiped the video from her hard drive, cleared her browser history. Then she went to check on the twins. They were both asleep in their shared bedroom, curled up in their separate beds. Arya had kicked off her blankets. Elena was clutching a stuffed elephant. Evelina pulled Arya's blankets back up, kissed both their foreheads, and stood there in the dark for a long moment. I'm doing this for you, she whispered, so you never have to be afraid, so you never have to hide. So when you're old enough to understand, you'll know your mother wasn't weak, wasn't a victim. Elena stirred but didn't wake. Evelina left the room and went back to her office. She had work to do. The next 6 months were a carefully orchestrated dance. Thomas and his team planted discrepancies in Victor's operations. Small things. A shipping manifest that didn't quite match the inventory. An invoice from a vendor that didn't exist. A payment that went to the wrong account and had to be corrected. Nothing obvious. Nothing that screamed fraud. Just enough to make the people who handled Roman's money start asking quiet questions. Evelina watched from a distance, monitoring through James Hawthorne's network of informants. She heard when Roman's head accountant requested a full audit of the shipping division. Heard when the audit turned up minor irregularities. Heard when Roman called a meeting with his division heads to discuss efficiency problems. Victor talked his way out of it, of course, blamed the discrepancies on sloppy record keeping, promised to tighten things up. But Roman was listening now, and once Roman started listening, he didn't stop. Evelina made her next move in April. She approached Marcus Reeves, the logistics client who'd given her so many connections, and asked for a favor. "I need you to make a business inquiry," she said, "to Roman Vale's organization. You're looking for a new shipping partner, someone discreet." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You want me to do business with the mob? I want you to ask questions, see who responds, see what they offer." "Why?" "Because I need to know how they operate, and I need someone they don't know is connected to me to gather that information." Marcus considered. "This is about Victor Sorin, isn't it?" "Yes." "You're going after him." "I am." "Why?" Evelina met his eyes. "Because he killed my mother, destroyed my life, and I want him to pay for it." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "What do you need me to do?" She gave him detailed instructions. Marcus made the inquiry through legitimate business channels. Within a week, someone from Roman's organization contacted him. It was Victor. He offered Marcus competitive rates, fast turnaround times, and complete discretion. Sent over contracts, scheduled a meeting. Marcus recorded everything. At the meeting, Victor was smooth and professional, talked about the organization's capabilities, mentioned that they could handle special cargo if needed. Didn't explicitly say anything illegal, but the implication was clear. Marcus played along, asked the right questions. Got Victor talking. And Victor, confident and relaxed, said something very interesting. "We run a tight ship. Roman trusts me to handle the details. He focuses on strategy. I make sure the day-to-day operations run smoothly." "That's a lot of responsibility," Marcus said. "It is, but I've been doing this for 15 years. Roman and I built this together. I'm not just his employee, I'm his partner." Partner. Victor had called himself Roman's partner. Evelina listened to the recording 3 times. In Roman's world, there were no partners. There was Roman, and there was everyone else. The fact that Victor saw himself as an equal was dangerous. The kind of dangerous that made men take risks, make mistakes, get greedy. She called Thomas. "I need you to accelerate the timeline. Victor's getting too comfortable. We need to push him into a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" "The kind where he tries to protect himself by doing something stupid." Thomas understood. "I'll create pressure, make it look like someone's investigating the shipping operations. Anonymous tips to the authorities. Nothing that'll actually go anywhere, but enough to make Victor nervous." "Perfect." Over the next month, the pressure built. Someone called in a tip to the Coast Guard about suspicious shipping activity. The Coast Guard investigated, found nothing, moved on. But the investigation made the news. Someone else filed a complaint with the Port Authority about irregular documentation. Again, nothing came of it, but it created noise. Victor had to respond, had to explain to Roman why their operations were suddenly attracting attention. He blamed competitors, said someone was trying to damage their reputation, suggested they increase security, tighten protocols. Roman agreed. But Roman was also watching more closely now. And the closer he watched, the more he'd eventually see. Evelina knew she was close, could feel it. Just a few more moves, a few more carefully placed dominoes, and then Victor's world would collapse. The twins finished kindergarten in June. Evelina took them to the beach for a weekend, let them play in the sand and splash in the waves, watched them build castles that the tide would wash away. "Mommy, why do the waves keep breaking our castle?" Arya asked, frustrated. "Because that's what waves do," Evelina said. "They come in, they take things away, but you can always build a new castle." "I don't want a new one. I want this one." "Then build it farther from the water, where the waves can't reach." Elena looked up from where she was carefully constructing a wall. But then it's not as pretty. The best sand is by the water. That's true, Evelina said. So you have to choose safety or beauty. Can't we have both? Arya asked. Evelina smiled. Sometimes, if you're smart enough and strong enough to protect what you build. The girls went back to their castle, working together now to build it farther up the beach where the waves wouldn't reach. Evelina watched them and thought about the empire she'd built, the network of allies, the evidence, the plan. She'd built her castle far from the water, and now it was time to bring the waves to Victor. By September, Roman's organization was hemorrhaging money. Not dramatically, not in a way that would cause immediate panic. Just a slow, steady bleed that showed up in quarterly reports as reduced profits, missed projections, unexplained shortfalls. Evelina monitored it all through her network of informants. James Hawthorne had people inside accounting firms, shipping companies, even a few of Roman's legitimate businesses. They fed her information weekly, sometimes daily. He's asking more questions, James told her over coffee in a corner booth at a diner in Brooklyn. The twins were at school. Evelina had 2 hours before pickup. Wants to see every invoice over $10,000 personally. That's new. Victor must be sweating. Victor's scrambling. He's been moving money around, trying to cover the gaps. But the more he moves, the messier the trail gets. Evelina stirred her coffee, thinking. We need to give Roman something concrete, something he can't explain away. Like what? Like proof that Victor's side operation exists. Not the video yet, something smaller, something that makes Roman dig deeper on his own. James pulled out his phone, scrolled through something. There's a warehouse in Red Hook. Victor's been using it for the smuggling operation. It's registered to one of his shell companies, but the paperwork's sloppy. If someone looked hard enough, they'd see it doesn't match up with any of Roman's legitimate holdings. Can we make Roman look? We can make him curious, anonymous tip to one of his security guys, someone he trusts. Make it seem like competitive intelligence. Another organization might be moving in on their territory. Do it, James made the call that afternoon. 3 days later, Roman's security team did a sweep of properties in Red Hook. Found the warehouse. Started asking questions about who authorized it, what it was being used for, why it wasn't in the main inventory. Victor claimed it was overflow storage, a contingency space he'd secured in case they needed it. But Roman's head of security was thorough. He pulled the registration papers, found the shell company name, started tracing the ownership. The ownership led to a dead end. A corporation that didn't exist on paper anywhere in Roman's files. Roman called a meeting. Evelina heard about it within hours. Thomas's contact inside the organization, a junior accountant with a gambling problem who Thomas had been paying for information, sent a text. Big meeting tomorrow. RV wants every department head there. Says there's irregularities that need explaining. Evelina read the text twice, then deleted it. It was happening. She'd spent 5 years building toward this moment. 5 years of patience and planning and careful manipulation. And now the dominoes were finally starting to fall. She picked up the twins from school that afternoon like always, listened to Arya talk excitedly about the butterfly they'd released during science class, watched Elena carefully sound out words in a reading book during homework time. Normal. Everything normal on the surface. But underneath, Evelina's mind was racing. The meeting happened on a Thursday morning in Roman's private office in Midtown. Evelina wasn't there, of course, but Thomas's contact was, and he reported back everything. Roman sat behind his desk, silent and still, while his division heads shuffled through the door. Victor came in last, confident as always, perfectly dressed in a charcoal suit. "Gentlemen," Roman said when everyone was seated, "we have a problem." He laid out the issues one by one, the shipping discrepancies, the mysterious warehouse, the shell company no one could trace, the minor losses that had been adding up quarter after quarter. "Someone want to explain this to me?" Roman asked. The room was quiet. Then Victor leaned forward. "I can explain the warehouse. That was my initiative. I secured it as backup space in case we had overflow issues with the holiday shipping season. The shell company was a tax structure our lawyers recommended. I should have cleared it with you first. That's on me." "And the losses?" Roman asked. "Market fluctuations. Increased costs. We've been dealing with port slowdowns, labor issues, regulatory changes. It's been a difficult year across the board." Roman studied him. "Michael, What do the books say? Michael Chen, the head accountant, cleared his throat. He was 56, cautious, and terrified of Roman. The losses are real, but the pattern is unusual. Some of the expenses don't have proper documentation, vendor invoices that are vague, payments that went out but don't have corresponding delivery confirmations. How much are we talking? Over the last 18 months? Approximately $4 million in questionable expenses. The room went very quiet. Victor didn't flinch. If there are documentation issues, that's a clerical problem. We can audit everything, tighten up the processes, but the money went where it was supposed to go. We're not missing $4 million. Then where is it? Roman asked. In inventory? In operations? Spread across normal business expenses. Michael's looking at it wrong. He's seeing gaps in paperwork and assuming there's fraud. But it's just sloppy record keeping. Roman looked at Michael. Is that possible? Michael hesitated. It's possible, but I'd need to do a full audit to be sure, and that would take time. How much time? 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. You have 4 weeks, Roman said. I want a complete accounting of every dollar that went out in the last 2 years, every invoice, every vendor, every transaction. If it's sloppy record keeping, fine, we'll fix it. But if it's something else, he let the sentence hang. Victor's expression didn't change, but Evelina imagined she could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. 4 weeks. Could he cover his tracks in 4 weeks? Maybe, if he was smart and fast and ruthless. But Evelina wasn't going to give him 4 weeks. She was going to give him 10 days. That night, she called an emergency meeting with Thomas and his team. They gathered in a private room at a hotel in Queens, away from anywhere they might be recognized. We're accelerating, Evelina said without preamble. Roman's ordered a full audit. If Victor has 4 weeks to prepare, he'll hide everything. We need to hit him now while he's scrambling. Hit him how? Thomas asked. We leak the video. Not to Roman. To his inner circle. The people who handle security, logistics, the money. People who'll bring it to Roman themselves. If we leak it, Victor will know someone's actively working against him, one of Thomas's associates said. A woman named Lisa, who used to do intelligence work before Victor got her fired. He'll start looking for who? I know, but we don't have a choice. If he successfully covers the audit, we lose our window. He'll know Roman's suspicious, and he'll be more careful going forward. Thomas nodded slowly. Who do we send it to? Daniel Moss, Evelina said. He runs security. He's loyal to Roman, not to Victor, and he's smart enough to verify the video before showing it to anyone. How do we get it to him? Anonymous email, encrypted, sent from an IP address that can't be traced back to us. Evelina looked around the table. This is it. Once we do this, everything happens fast. Victor will try to save himself. Roman will have to choose who to believe, and we need to be ready for whatever comes next. What if Roman doesn't believe it? Lisa asked. What if he thinks the video's fake? He won't. The footage is too clean, too specific, and once he starts investigating, he'll find all the other evidence we've been building, the shell companies, the missing money, the side operation. It'll all come together. And if Victor runs? He won't run. He's too arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. Evelina's voice was cold. That's his weakness, and we're going to use it to destroy him. The video went out the next morning. Daniel Moss received it at 6:47 a.m. By 8:15, he'd verified that the footage was real and the metadata was legitimate. By 9:30, he was in Roman's office. Evelina heard about the meeting from 3 different sources. Each one told her the same thing. Roman watched the video 4 times, didn't say a word, just watched it over and over while Daniel stood there waiting. Finally, Roman spoke. Where did this come from? Anonymous email. Sent through a remailer that bounces through 6 different countries. Whoever sent it knows what they're doing. Could it be fabricated? I had our tech people analyze it. It's real. The timestamp matches the date on the metadata. The location is correct. That's Victor's voice. That's his face. And the man he's meeting with is Dmitry Volkov. Roman went very still. Volkov. Yeah, the Volkov family. The same organization that had supposedly bought information from Evelina's mother 5 years ago. The same organization Victor had blamed for the deaths of 3 of Roman's men. Victor told me the Volkovs were our enemies, Roman said quietly. He told you a lot of things. Roman stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city for a long moment. "Get me everything," he finally said. "Every piece of paper connected to Victor Sorin, every transaction, every property, every phone call. I want to know what he had for breakfast 6 months ago. Understood?" "Understood." "And Daniel? Don't tell him we're looking. Let him think everything's normal." "What are you going to do?" Roman turned from the window. His face was empty of expression, but his eyes were cold in a way that made even Daniel nervous. "I'm going to find out if my partner has been stealing from me for 5 years. And if he has, I'm going to kill him." The investigation took 8 days. Roman's team worked around the clock, pulling records and tracing money and interviewing people who'd worked with Victor. They did it quietly, carefully, without Victor knowing he was under scrutiny. On the surface, everything continued as normal. Victor came to meetings, managed operations, smiled and joked and acted like nothing was wrong. But Evelina could feel the tension building, could sense it in the way her informant's messages became more urgent, more detailed. Something was coming. On the 8th day, Roman called another meeting. This time, it was just him and Victor. Evelina didn't have anyone in the room for that conversation. But she didn't need to be there to know what happened. The evidence spoke for itself. $14 million stolen over 6 years. 23 shell companies. 4 separate smuggling operations run under Roman's nose. And a partnership with the Volkov family that went back longer than Victor had claimed Elena Russo. Elena Russo was a traitor, which meant Victor had framed Evelina's mother to cover his own betrayal, had probably killed her to silence her when she got too close to the truth. Roman spent 40 minutes laying out every piece of evidence, every transaction, every lie. And Victor, cornered and desperate, made his final mistake. He tried to lie his way out. "This is a setup," Victor said. "Someone's coming after us, after you. They've fabricated all of this to make you doubt me, to divide us." "Who?" Roman asked. "Who would do that?" "I don't know, but think about it. We've been together for 15 years, built this empire together. You trust me. Someone wants to destroy that trust. The video is real. The video is edited, or it's AI generated, or it's you, Victor." Roman's voice was flat. "It's your voice. Your face. Your deal with Dmitry Volkov. I had 3 separate forensic analysts look at it. It's real." Victor changed tactics. "Okay, yes. I met with Volkov, but it was for you, for us. I was negotiating a truce, trying to find common ground so we could stop the bloodshed. By running a smuggling operation together? That was his price. He wanted a percentage of our shipping business. I gave him a small corner of it to keep the peace. I was protecting you. By stealing from me. I wasn't stealing. I was reinvesting, building infrastructure, creating opportunities. Yes, I kept some of it, but I earned it. I've given you 15 years of my life. You've given me 15 years of lies." Roman stood. "I want to know one thing. Did you kill Elena Russo?" Victor hesitated, just for a second. It was enough. "She was going to expose everything," Victor said quietly. "She found the evidence, started asking questions. I tried to buy her off. She refused, so I did what I had to do." "And her daughter? What about her?" "You framed her, destroyed her marriage, made me divorce her while she was pregnant. I protected you. She was collateral damage. Unfortunate but necessary." Roman was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a gun. Victor's eyes widened. "Roman, wait. Get out." "What?" "Get out of my office. Get out of my city. Get out of my life. You have 24 hours. "You're letting me go?" "I'm giving you a chance to run, because somewhere under all the lies and the theft and the murder, there's the kid who helped me build this, the friend I trusted." Roman's hand tightened on the gun. "But if you're still in New York tomorrow, that friendship won't mean anything. Understood?" Victor stared at him. Then he nodded and left. The news reached Evelina within the hour. "He's running," Thomas said over the phone. "Victor's cleaning out his accounts, packing. Word is he's got a flight to Buenos Aires tomorrow morning." "Roman let him go?" "Apparently. Guess he couldn't pull the trigger on someone he's known that long." Evelina closed her eyes. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Victor was supposed to face justice, real justice, not just exile. We can't let him get on that plane, she said. What do you want to do? I want to make sure Roman sees exactly what kind of man he protected. I want Victor exposed completely, and I want my mother's name cleared. How? Evelina thought for a moment, then she smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. We give the evidence to the FBI. Thomas was quiet. If the FBI gets involved, they'll take down Roman too, the whole organization. I know. You're okay with that? Roman destroyed my life based on Victor's lies. Never questioned them, never gave me a chance to defend myself, just threw me away like I was nothing. Evelina's voice was cold. If he goes down with Victor, that's not my problem. All right, I'll make the contact. Wait. Evelina stopped him. Not yet. I want to do something first. What? I want to meet with Roman, face to face, before everything comes apart. I want him to know it was me. Thomas was silent for a long moment. That's dangerous. I don't care. He could kill you. He won't. How do you know? Because I'm going to bring his daughters with me. The meeting took 3 days to arrange. Evelina sent the message through Marcus Reeves, her logistics client who'd helped gather evidence on Victor. Marcus had maintained business relationships with some of Roman's legitimate enterprises, which gave him a plausible reason to request a meeting. Tell him someone wants to discuss a matter of urgent personal importance, Evelina instructed. Tell him it concerns his ex-wife. And tell him if he wants answers, he'll meet at the place I specify. Marcus made the call. Roman, curious and probably suspicious, agreed. The meeting was set for a Saturday afternoon at a neutral location, a private dining room in a restaurant in Tribeca. Expensive, public enough to be safe, private enough to talk. Evelina hired 2 bodyguards for the day, not because she thought Roman would hurt her in public, but because she wasn't taking chances. She also hired a lawyer to be present as a witness, and she brought Arya and Elena. They were 5 years old now, beautiful, bright, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Evelina dressed them in matching blue dresses and told them they were going to meet someone important. Who? Arya asked in the car on the way there. Someone from Mommy's past. Is it Grandma Elena? Elena asked hopefully. She'd seen pictures, heard stories, missed a grandmother she'd never really known. No, sweetheart, someone else. The restaurant was quiet when they arrived. Evelina held both girls' hands as they walked through the main dining room toward the private area in the back. Her heart was pounding, but her hands were steady. The bodyguard stayed outside the door. The lawyer went in first. Then Evelina, with Arya and Elena on either side of her, stepped into the room. Roman was already there. He stood by the window, his back to the door, looking out at the street below. He was wearing a dark suit, looked older than she remembered. There was gray at his temples now, lines around his eyes. When he turned and saw her, he froze. Hello, Roman, Evelina said quietly. He stared at her like she was a ghost. His eyes moved from her face to the twins and back again. You're alive. Did you think I was dead? I didn't know what to think. His voice was rough. You disappeared, completely. I looked for you. Not very hard. Hard enough. He took a step closer, then stopped when the bodyguards tensed outside. Who are they? My daughters, Arya and Elena. Roman's gaze fixed on the twins. They stared back at him with identical dark eyes. His eyes, solemn and curious. How old are they? He asked. 5. They'll be 6 in November. The math was obvious. Roman's face went pale. They're mine. Yes. You've had my children for 5 years and never told me? You made it very clear you didn't think they were yours. You demanded a paternity test, accused me of cheating, so I made the decision for you. Roman looked like she'd hit him. I was wrong. Yes, you were. About a lot of things. He couldn't stop staring at the twins. Can I talk to them? No? Evelina, you don't get to walk back into their lives just because you finally figured out you made a mistake. You threw us away, Roman. You believed Victor's lies over my truth. You signed those divorce papers in the rain at my mother's funeral without a second thought. I know, his voice cracked. I know what I did. Do you know what Victor did? Roman's jaw tightened. I know he stole from me. I know he's been lying for years. I know he killed your mother. Do you know why? Because she found out what he was doing. She found out he was stealing from you and framing her to cover it. And when she tried to bring you the evidence, he poisoned her. Made it look like a stroke. Evelina's voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. And then he framed me the same way, created that Cayman account, forged my signature, fed you lies about me being a traitor until you believed him. I should have questioned it, should have listened to you. Yes, you should have. Roman looked at her, really looked, for the first time since she'd walked in. You're different. I had to be. The business you built, CCS International. That's you, isn't it? Sarah Chen. So he'd figured it out, or someone had told him. Evelina nodded. You've been working against me for years, Roman said. I've been working against Victor. You were just collateral damage. The echo of Victor's words made Roman flinch. What do you want? I want you to know it was me. I'm the one who exposed Victor. I'm the one who's been planting evidence and creating pressure and making your world fall apart piece by piece. Evelina's voice was calm, clinical. I spent 5 years building a case against him, 5 years gathering proof, 5 years making sure that when the truth came out, there'd be no way to deny it. Why tell me this? Because I want you to understand what you did. You destroyed our family over a lie. You let Victor manipulate you into throwing away your wife and your children, and you never once stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, the woman you married wouldn't betray you. Roman's hands clenched at his sides. I can't undo what I did. No, you can't. But I can try to make it right. There is no making it right. There's only moving forward. Evelina glanced at the twins, who were getting restless. Arya was tugging at her hand, wanting to explore. Elena was watching Roman with unnerving intensity. Can I be part of their lives? Roman asked. I don't know yet. Please, they're my daughters. They're my daughters. They've been mine for 5 years. You're a stranger to them. Then let me stop being a stranger. Evelina studied him, saw the desperation there, the regret, and underneath it, something that might have been love. But love wasn't enough. It had never been enough. Victor gets on a plane tomorrow, she said. Are you really going to let him run? Roman's expression hardened. That's not your concern. It is my concern. He killed my mother. He destroyed my life. And you're letting him walk away. I gave him 24 hours out of respect for our history. Your history is built on lies. I know that now. So do something about it. Like what? Kill him? That what you want? I want justice, real justice. I want him to face what he did. Roman was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'll handle Victor my way. Your way isn't enough. Then what do you suggest? Evelina pulled an envelope from her purse, handed it to him. This is a copy of everything, every piece of evidence against Victor. Financial records, video footage, witness statements, everything. Roman opened it, scanned the contents. His face went darker with every page. There's enough here to put him away for life, he said. Yes. Where did you get all this? I told you, I've been building the case for 5 years. Roman looked up. You're giving this to me? I'm giving you a choice. You can let Victor run, or you can make sure he faces real consequences. Not just exile, not just losing his money. Real consequences. If I turn this over to the authorities, they'll come after me too. I know. You want me to go down with him. I want you to do the right thing, for once. Roman stared at the envelope in his hands, then at the twins, then at Evelina. I don't know if I can do that, he said quietly. Then you're exactly the man I thought you were when I signed those divorce papers. Evelina took the twins' hands. Come on, girls. We're leaving. Wait. Roman's voice stopped her at the door. What if I did it? Turned everything over, cooperated with the investigation. What then? Then you'd be free of him, really free. No more lies, no more wondering who you can trust. I'd lose everything. You'd lose the empire built on blood and lies, but you'd keep your integrity, and maybe, someday, you'd earn the right to know your daughters. Roman looked at them again. Arya was watching him now, curious. Elena had hidden her face against Evelina's leg, shy. "They're beautiful," he said softly. "They are. Do they know about me?" "They know their father lives far away and can't visit. That's all." "Will you tell them the truth someday?" "When they're old enough to understand it." Roman nodded slowly. Then he looked at the envelope again, at the evidence of Victor's betrayal, laid out in black and white. "If I do this," he said, "I want one thing in return." "What?" "A chance. Just a chance. To be a part of their lives." Evelina considered. "Earn it first. Show me you're capable of putting them before yourself. Show me you can be the kind of man they deserve as a father. Then we'll talk. That's all I'm asking for. Then we have an understanding." Evelina turned to leave, but Roman spoke again. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything, for not believing you, for signing those papers, for not fighting harder to find you. I'm sorry." She looked back at him. "I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix what's broken. Can anything fix it? Time, maybe, if you make the right choices from here." She left with the twins, the bodyguards falling into step behind them. As they walked back through the restaurant, Arya looked up at her. "Mommy, who was that man?" Evelina hesitated. Then she said, "Someone who made mistakes, but who might learn to do better. He looks sad." "He is sad." "Why?" "Because he lost something important, and he's only now realizing how important it was." Elena tugged at her hand. "Can we get ice cream?" Evelina smiled. "Yes, we can get ice cream." They left the restaurant and walked into the autumn sunlight. Behind them, inside that private room, Roman Vale sat alone with an envelope full of evidence and a choice that would determine everything. Evelina didn't know what he'd decide, but she'd done what she came to do. She'd made him see the truth, made him face what he'd destroyed. And now, for the first time in 5 years, she felt something close to peace. Roman made his decision that night. He called Daniel Moss at 11 p.m. and told him to cancel Victor's flight. Then he called the federal prosecutor's office and asked for a meeting. The prosecutor's name was Amanda Torres, and she'd been trying to build a case against Roman's organization for 3 years. When his attorney called her office requesting immunity in exchange for testimony, she almost laughed. "Roman Vale wants to cooperate," she said over the phone to Roman's lawyer. "The Roman Vale? He has information, substantial information, about criminal activities within his organization that he was unaware of. He expects me to believe he didn't know what his own people were doing. He expects you to look at the evidence before making assumptions." Amanda agreed to the meeting. It took place 2 days later in a conference room at the Federal Building in Lower Manhattan. Roman came with his lawyer. Amanda brought 2 FBI agents and a stenographer. Roman laid out everything: the smuggling operations Victor had been running, the money laundering, the partnership with the Volkov family, the murder of Elena Russo, all of it documented with the evidence Evelina had given him. Amanda listened, taking notes, her expression carefully neutral. When Roman finished, she sat back. "This is comprehensive." "It is." "Where did you get it?" "Does it matter?" "It matters if this evidence was obtained illegally. If it was, we can't use it." Roman's lawyer spoke up. "The evidence was compiled by a private investigation firm over several years, all of it obtained through legal means. Financial records pulled from public filings, video surveillance from private property with permission of the owners, witness interviews conducted voluntarily." Amanda looked skeptical, but intrigued. "And you had no idea Victor Sorin was doing any of this?" "I trusted him completely, for 15 years. That trust was misplaced." You want immunity for your cooperation?" "I want immunity for testimony against Victor and the Volkov family. In exchange, I'll provide complete access to my organization's records, help you build cases against everyone involved." "Including yourself?" Roman's jaw tightened. "I've done things I'm not proud of, but I've never dealt drugs, never partnered with the Volkovs, never murdered anyone. The things Victor did, he did without my knowledge or consent." "That's convenient." "It's the truth." Amanda studied him for a long moment. Then she said, "I'll need to verify everything here. That's going to take time. Weeks, probably. Victor Sorin is planning to leave the country. If you want him, you need to move now. We'll bring him in for questioning, But if this evidence doesn't hold up, Mr. Vale, you're going to have a very serious problem. It'll hold up, Amanda stood. We'll be in touch. The FBI arrested Victor Sorin the next morning. He was at his apartment in Soho packing the last of his bags when 6 agents knocked on his door. He opened it with a smile, probably thinking it was the car service coming early. The smile died when he saw the badges. Victor Sorin, you're under arrest for money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and racketeering. Victor's face went white. This is a mistake. You have the right to remain silent. I want my lawyer, right now. Don't say another word to me until my lawyer is present. They handcuffed him anyway, walked him out of his building past neighbors and doormen and random people on the street with their phones out, recording everything. By noon, the arrest was all over the news. Evelina watched the coverage from her office, the twins at school, her coffee going cold on the desk. She saw Victor being led into the federal building, his hands cuffed behind his back, his expensive suit rumpled. Saw him duck his head away from the cameras, trying to hide his face. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was a start. Thomas called. Did you see? I saw. Roman actually did it, turned him in. Looks that way. You think Victor will talk, try to cut a deal? He'll try, but he doesn't have anything to offer. Roman's already given them everything. Thomas was quiet for a moment. What happens now? Now we wait. See if the charges stick. See if Victor goes to trial or pleads out. And if he pleads out, then we make sure the plea includes a full confession, including my mother's murder. How do we do that? We don't. We let the prosecutors do their job. They have the evidence. They'll want the murder charge. It's the most serious thing he did. You sound calm. I am calm. 5 years of work and you're just calm? Evelina smiled faintly. I'm satisfied. There's a difference. She hung up and went back to watching the news. They were replaying footage of Victor's arrest on a loop, interspersed with analysis from legal experts and reporters speculating about what this meant for Roman's organization. No one mentioned her name. No one knew Sarah Chen was really Evelina Corsa. No one connected the dots between a murdered woman 5 years ago and the takedown happening now. That was fine. She didn't need credit, she just needed justice. The investigation moved faster than anyone expected. With Roman's cooperation, the FBI built their case in 3 weeks instead of 3 months. They arrested 4 members of the Volkov family, seized assets, froze accounts, dismantled the smuggling operation piece by piece. Victor's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutors weren't interested. They had too much evidence. Video footage, financial records, witness testimony from people inside the organization who'd flipped as soon as they realized Victor was going down. And they had Roman willing to testify to everything. The trial was set for January. In the meantime, Evelina's life continued with strange normalcy. She ran her business, picked up the twins from school, made dinner, helped with homework, read bedtime stories. But now, once a week, Roman called. The first call came 3 days after Victor's arrest. I did what you asked, he said without preamble. I know. I saw the news. I turned over everything. They're prosecuting him for your mother's murder. Good. Roman was quiet for a moment. Can I see them, the twins? Not yet. When? When the trial's over. When everything's settled. When I know you're serious about being in their lives and not just feeling guilty. I am serious. Then prove it. Be patient. Show up when it matters. Don't make promises you can't keep. Roman sighed. All right. But I'm not going away, Evelina. They're my daughters. I want to know them. Then earn that right. She hung up. The calls continued. Once a week, like clockwork. Always brief. Always the same question. Could he see the girls? Always the same answer. Not yet. But something was shifting. Evelina could feel it. Roman was different now. Quieter. More thoughtful. The arrogance that had defined him 5 years ago had cracked, and underneath was something raw. More real. She didn't trust it yet, but she was watching. December came. The twins made snowflakes in art class and sang in the school holiday concert. Evelina sat in the audience with the other parents, recording everything on her phone, pretending her life was simple and uncomplicated. After the concert, Aria ran up to her, breathless and excited. Did you see me, Mommy? Did you see me sing? I saw you, baby. You were beautiful. Elena appeared a moment later, more reserved. Was I okay? You were perfect. They went out for hot chocolate, the three of them bundled in coats and scarves, and Evelina thought about how much had changed. 5 years ago, she'd been alone in a motel room, pregnant and terrified, with nothing but anger and grief to keep her warm. Now she had this: 2 daughters who loved her, a business that thrived, a life she'd built from ashes. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but it was hers. The week before Christmas, Amanda Torres called. We have a development in the Soren case, she said. Evelina's pulse quickened. What kind of development? He wants to make a statement about Elena Russo's death. He's willing to confess to it in exchange for taking the death penalty off the table. Evelina's hand tightened on the phone. What does the statement say? He admits to poisoning her, says she discovered his financial crimes and threatened to expose him. He panicked, obtained a slow-acting poison that would mimic a stroke, put it in her coffee over the course of 2 weeks until her system shut down. The clinical description made Evelina's stomach turn. Her mother, slowly dying, probably knowing something was wrong but not understanding what. Confused. Scared. Does he express remorse? Evelina asked quietly. Amanda hesitated. He says it was a regrettable necessity. That's the exact phrase he used. So no, he doesn't regret it. Not in any meaningful way. Evelina closed her eyes. Are you taking the deal? That's not my decision. It's the DA's office. But between you and me, I think they will. A confession to murder is valuable, and Victor's lawyer is arguing that without the deal, he'll recant everything and force us to trial. He's bluffing. Maybe, but the DA doesn't want to risk it. Evelina understood. This was how the system worked. Compromises and negotiations and justice that was always incomplete. Will the confession be public? She asked. Yes, it'll be part of the court record, and we'll notify next of kin before it's released. I'm next of kin. I know, that's why I'm calling you now. The statement will be filed tomorrow. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Thank you. There's one more thing, Amanda said. Victor also admitted to framing you, creating the Cayman account, forging documents. He did it to create a distraction, to make Roman focus on you instead of looking at him. Evelina had known this for years, had the proof in her files. But hearing it confirmed, hearing Victor admit it to federal prosecutors, felt different. Final. Does that mean my name is cleared? She asked. Officially, yes. We'll issue a statement clarifying that you were never under investigation and that any allegations against you were fabricated as part of Victor Soren's criminal conspiracy. What about my medical license? What about it? Victor threatened to destroy my career, got me blacklisted. I haven't practiced medicine in 5 years because I couldn't risk the scrutiny. Amanda was quiet for a moment. I'll see what I can do. But that's a state licensing board issue, not federal. You'd need to petition them directly. I will. Dr. Corsa? Amanda's voice softened slightly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry for what happened to you. What was done to you? You didn't deserve any of it. No, I didn't. If there's anything else I can do to help, just make sure he stays in prison. That's all I need. He will. I promise you that. Evelina hung up and sat in the silence of her office. Outside, the city was strung with Christmas lights. Inside, she felt hollowed out and strangely numb. Victor had confessed. Her mother's murder was solved. Her own name was cleared. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt like the end of something, and endings were always complicated. She called Thomas. Victor confessed. I heard. It's all over the legal networks. He's taking a plea. 25 years minimum. Eligible for parole after 20. That's not enough. No. But it's what we're getting, Thomas sighed. Are you okay? I don't know yet. Ask me in a week. What happens now? Now I figure out what comes next. I've spent 5 years focused on this, on making Victor pay, and now it's done. You've still got your business, the twins, your whole life. I know, but it feels strange, like I'm missing a piece. That's normal. You've been running on revenge for a long time. Now you have to figure out what else drives you. Evelina smiled faintly. When did you become a therapist? When I started working for a woman who spent 5 years orchestrating the downfall of her enemies while raising twin daughters and building a consulting empire. You pick up things. Fair enough. She hung up and looked at the calendar on her wall. Christmas was in 4 days. New Year's a week after that. A fresh start, if she wanted one. The question was, what did she want? Christmas Eve arrived cold and clear. Evelina took the twins to see the tree at Rockefeller Center, let them ice skate and drink hot cider and marvel at the lights. They were old enough now to remember this, old enough for it to become a tradition. When they got home, exhausted and happy, there was a package waiting at their door. It was wrapped in expensive paper with a simple card attached. Evelina opened the card first. For Arya and Elena. I wasn't sure what 5-year-old girls like, so I asked someone who knows. I hope these are okay. Merry Christmas, R. Her chest tightened. She opened the package carefully, aware of the twins watching. Inside were 2 identical teddy bears, beautifully made, soft and perfect. Each wore a small sweater with an embroidered name, Arya on one, Elena on the other. The twins squealed with delight and grabbed them immediately, hugging them close. Who are they from? Arya asked. Evelina hesitated, then she said, From your father. Both girls went still. They'd heard the word before but never connected to anything real. Our daddy? Elena asked quietly. Yes. Where is he? He's working through some things, but he wanted you to know he's thinking about you. Does he know our names? Arya asked. Yes, he knows your names. Elena looked at her bear, fingers tracing the embroidered letters. Will we meet him someday? Maybe. If he proves he can be the kind of father you deserve. What kind is that? The kind who shows up, who keeps his promises, who loves you more than he loves himself. Arya seemed to accept this. She was already making her bear dance across the couch. But Elena kept looking at Evelina with those dark, serious eyes. Do you think he will? Elena asked. I don't know yet, sweetheart. We'll have to wait and see. That night, after the twins were asleep with their new bears tucked beside them, Evelina called Roman. They love the bears, she said when he answered. Yeah? His voice lifted slightly. I wasn't sure. The woman at the store said girls that age like stuffed animals, but I didn't know if... They love them. Thank you. Roman was quiet for a moment. I told them their names when I had them embroidered, and it felt, I don't know, real, I guess. Like they were real people, not just this abstract idea of children I'd lost. They are real people. They're smart and funny and completely different from each other. Arya's fearless. Elena's thoughtful. They both have your eyes and your stubborn streak. I want to meet them. I know. When? Evelina looked at the calendar. The trial starts in 3 weeks, after it's over. After Victor's sentenced, after everything's settled. Then we'll talk about it. That could be months. It could be. Are you willing to wait? Do I have a choice? You always have a choice, Roman. That's the whole point. He sighed. All right. I'll wait. But I'm serious about this, about being their father. Then be serious. Not just now when it's new and you're feeling guilty. Be serious 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. I will. We'll see. She hung up and sat in the dark living room, looking at the Christmas tree they'd decorated together, the twins' stockings hung by the fireplace. 5 years ago, she'd been broken, alone, convinced her life was over. Now she was here, whole, strong, building something better. The trial started on January 9th. Evelina didn't attend. She'd given her statement to the prosecutors months ago, provided all the evidence she had, and answered every question they'd asked. Now she just needed to let the system work. But she followed every development through Amanda Torres, who called her with updates. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. The financial crimes, the smuggling operation, the partnership with the Volkovs, and finally, the murder of Elena Russo. Victor's confession was read into the record, every cold clinical word of it. The defense tried to argue that Victor had been coerced, that the FBI had pressured him into confessing to crimes he didn't commit. But the evidence was overwhelming. The video footage, the financial records, the testimony from Roman and a dozen other witnesses. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found Victor Sorin guilty on all counts. Sentencing was set for 2 weeks later. Evelina marked the date on her calendar but didn't think about it too much. She was busy with work, with the twins, with the small rituals of daily life that had become precious to her. But when the day came, she took the morning off. She didn't go to the courthouse, didn't want to see Victor one last time. Instead, she went to the cemetery where her mother was buried. It was a cold February morning, the ground still hard with frost. Evelina stood at the grave, hands in her coat pockets, and looked at the headstone. Elena Russo, beloved mother, 1963 to 2021. No mention of betrayal now, no shadow of lies, just the truth. I did it, Mom, Evelina said quietly. I got him. Victor's being sentenced today. 25 to life, they're saying. He'll die in prison. The wind stirred the bare trees. A crow called somewhere in the distance. I know you wanted me to run, to disappear, to be safe. Evelina's voice cracked slightly. But I couldn't. I couldn't let him win. I had to make it right. She knelt and brushed leaves away from the base of the headstone. The twins are doing great. They're in first grade now. Smart as hell. Both of them. You'd love them. They ask about you sometimes. I show them pictures, tell them stories. They know you love them even though you never got to meet them. A text came through on her phone. Amanda Torres. Sentencing complete. 25 years minimum, eligible for parole after 20. Judge added special notation that parole board should consider severity of murder charge. Effectively, a life sentence. Evelina read it twice. Then she looked back at the headstone. It's over, she whispered. It's finally over. She stayed at the grave for another 20 minutes, just sitting in the cold, feeling the weight of 5 years lift slowly from her shoulders. When she finally left, she felt lighter. Not happy, exactly, but free. Free to move forward. Free to build something new. Free to let go of the anger that had sustained her for so long. She drove back to the city, picked up the twins from school, and took them out for dinner at their favorite place. They ate pizza and laughed and made a mess, and Evelina watched them and thought about the future. A future where Victor was in prison, where her mother's name was cleared, where she had her daughters and her business and maybe someday a relationship with their father that didn't hurt. That night, after the twins were asleep, Roman called. I heard about the sentencing, he said. Me too. How do you feel? Tired, relieved, empty, kind of. That makes sense. You've been carrying this for a long time. Yeah. Roman was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I testified against him. Did Amanda tell you? She mentioned you were on the witness list. I told them everything. Every lie he fed me. Every time he manipulated me into making the wrong choice, including what he did to you and your mother. Thank you. I should have seen it sooner. Should have questioned him. Should have believed you. You should have. But you didn't, and we can't change that. No. But I can try to be better going forward. Evelina looked at the framed photo on her desk. Her and the twins at the beach last summer, all three of them laughing, covered in sand. You can meet them, she said quietly. Roman's breath caught. What? You can meet them. Not right away. I need to prepare them first. Explain who you are. Make sure they understand, but in a few weeks we can arrange something. Evelina, this doesn't mean I forgive you. It doesn't mean we're getting back together. It just means I'm willing to let you try to be their father, because they deserve to know you and you deserve a chance to know them. I won't waste it. I promise. Don't promise. Just do it. I will. They hung up, and Evelina sat in the quiet of her office, feeling the strange mixture of endings and beginnings. Victor was gone. Her mother's killer was behind bars. Her name was cleared, and now, maybe, she could start to rebuild the parts of her life that weren't about revenge, the parts that were just about living. 3 weeks after Victor's sentencing, Evelina sat the twins down for the most difficult conversation of their young lives. They were in the living room, sunlight streaming through the windows, and both girls sensed something important was coming. Arya bounced on the couch, impatient. Elena sat very still, watching her mother's face. Remember how I told you that your daddy lives far away? Evelina began. Because he's working, Arya said immediately. That's what I said, but it wasn't exactly true. Both girls went quiet. Your father didn't live far away. He just didn't know where we were. And I didn't tell him because we had problems, adult problems. He made some mistakes, big ones, and I had to protect you. From him? Elena's voice was small. No, baby, not from him. From a situation that was complicated and dangerous. But that situation is over now, and your father wants to meet you. Arya's eyes went wide. Really? When? Soon. This weekend, maybe. But I need you both to understand something first. Evelina took their hands. Your father is a good man who made bad choices. He's trying to be better, but he doesn't know you yet, and you don't know him. So this is going to be strange at first. Will he like us? Elena asked. The question broke Evelina's heart. He already loves you. He just needs to learn who you are. What if we don't like him? Then we'll figure that out together, but I think you will. I think if you give him a chance, you'll see that he's worth knowing. Arya seemed to accept this easily. She was already planning questions, talking about showing him her drawings from school, but Elena stayed quiet, thoughtful, and Evelina recognized that look. Her daughter was afraid. That night, after Arya was asleep, Elena climbed into Evelina's bed. Mommy? Yes, sweetheart. If Daddy comes back, will you leave? Evelina pulled her close. What? No. Why would you think that? Because in Sophie's class, her mommy and daddy don't live together anymore, and Sophie only sees her daddy sometimes, and she said it's because her mommy had to leave. That's not going to happen to us. I'm not going anywhere, ever. Promise? I promise. Your father and I aren't going to live together again, but that doesn't mean I'm leaving. You and Arya will always be with me, always. Elena relaxed slightly. Okay. Are you scared about meeting him? A little. That's normal. It's okay to be scared, but I'll be right there with you the whole time. What if he doesn't like me as much as Arya? She's prettier and funnier and… Stop. Evelina turned Elena's face toward hers. You are brilliant and kind and brave, and anyone who gets to know you is lucky, including your father. Don't ever think you're less than your sister. You're just different, and different is good. Elena nodded, but Evelina could see the doubt still there. It would take more than words to fix that. It would take time. The meeting was arranged for Saturday afternoon at a park in Brooklyn. Neutral ground, public, safe. Evelina drove the twins there, her stomach in knots the whole way. She'd texted Roman the night before with instructions. Casual clothes, no gifts, no big gestures, just show up and be present. He'd replied, I'll be there. When they arrived, Roman was already waiting on a bench near the playground. He stood when he saw them, and Evelina watched him take in the sight of his daughters for the first time in person. They were wearing matching purple jackets, holding hands, both suddenly shy now that the moment was real. Girls, Evelina said gently, this is your father, Roman. Roman crouched down to their level. Up close, Evelina could see his hands were shaking. Hi, he said. His voice was rough. I'm really happy to meet you both. Arya stepped forward first, curious and bold. You look like the pictures Mommy showed us. I hope that's a good thing. You're tall. Roman smiled. You'll be tall too, probably. Your mom's not short. Arya giggled. Elena stayed behind Evelina, one hand gripping her mother's coat. Roman noticed. He didn't push, just stayed crouched there, patient, until Elena finally stepped out. Hi, she whispered. Hi, Elena. That's a beautiful name. Did you know it was your grandmother's name? Elena nodded. She would have loved you, both of you. Mommy says she's in heaven, Arya announced. She is, and I bet she's watching right now, very proud. They sat on the bench together, Evelina between the twins and Roman beside them, but not too close. The conversation was stilted at first, awkward pauses and careful questions. But slowly, the girls warmed up. Arya showed him her latest drawing, a chaotic explosion of color that she said was a dragon. That's incredible, Roman said, and he sounded like he meant it. You're really talented. I know. Ms. Peterson says I should take art classes. Roman looked at Evelina. Does she take art classes? Not yet. It's expensive. I could help with that. We'll talk about it later. Elena was quieter, but when Roman asked her what her favorite subject in school was, she opened up a little. Reading. I like stories about animals. What's your favorite animal? Elephants. They remember everything, and they stay with their families. Something passed across Roman's face. Regret, maybe, or recognition. That's a good animal to like, he said quietly. They stayed at the park for 2 hours, played on the swings, fed ducks at the pond, watched Arya fearlessly climb the tallest part of the jungle gym while Elena cheered from below. When it was time to leave, Arya hugged Roman without hesitation. Elena hesitated, then offered her hand to shake. Roman shook it solemnly. Thank you for giving me a chance. You're welcome. In the car on the way home, Arya talked non-stop about everything they'd done. Elena was quiet, staring out the window. What did you think? Evelina asked her. He seems nice. He is nice. When he tries. Will we see him again? Do you want to? Elena thought about it. Maybe. If it's okay with you, it's okay with me. Over the next 3 months, the visits became regular. Every other Saturday, Roman would meet them somewhere. The park, the museum, the zoo, always with Evelina present, always casual and low pressure. Slowly, the girls got comfortable. Arya started calling him Dad without being prompted. Elena stuck with Roman but smiled more when she saw him. And Roman, to his credit, showed up every single time. Never canceled, never made excuses. Just appeared, patient and consistent, learning his daughters one Saturday at a time. Meanwhile, Evelina's life was shifting in other ways. She'd petitioned the medical board to reinstate her license. With Victor's confession clearing her name and multiple character witnesses vouching for her, the board agreed. After 5 years away from medicine, Dr. Evelina Corsa was officially allowed to practice again. She started part-time at a hospital in Queens. Trauma surgery, like before. The work was brutal and exhausting, and she loved every second of it. You're glowing, Thomas said when she met him for coffee one afternoon. It's weird. You look actually happy. I am happy. Is that weird? For someone who spent 5 years plotting revenge? Yeah, kind of. Evelina laughed. I'm allowed to move on. You are. I'm just not used to it. What about you? What's next for you? Thomas shrugged. I've got some consulting gigs. Might start my own firm. I've learned a lot working with you. Like what? Like patience is more powerful than rage. Like building something takes longer than tearing it down but lasts way longer. Like the best revenge is living well. That last one's a cliché. Doesn't make it wrong. Evelina smiled. No, I guess it doesn't. In April, Roman asked if he could take the girls to dinner alone. Evelina's first instinct was to say no, but she looked at Elena and Arya, excited and nervous, and realized she had to let go a little. 2 hours, she said, and you keep your phone on the whole time. Deal. She spent those 2 hours pacing her apartment, checking her phone every 5 minutes, fighting the urge to call and check in. When Roman brought them back, both girls were laughing, faces sticky with ice cream. We went to that Italian place on 5th, Roman said, then got gelato. I hope that's okay. It's fine. They were perfect. Both of them. Arya was already running to her room to put away a small gift Roman had bought her, a sketchbook and colored pencils. Elena lingered in the doorway. Did you have fun? Evelina asked. Yeah, he's funny. He tells really bad jokes. He always did. Can he come to my school thing next week? The spring concert? Evelina's heart squeezed. If he wants to, you should ask him. Elena turned to Roman, shy again. Will you come? Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it. The spring concert was chaos. 60 first graders singing off-key while parents recorded everything on their phones. Elena had a small solo, 4 lines about flowers growing. She sang them perfectly, her voice clear and sweet, and when she finished, she looked right at Roman and Evelina sitting together in the audience. Roman was crying. Evelina handed him a tissue without a word. After the concert, they went out for pizza, the 4 of them together, almost like a family. Almost, but not quite. This is nice, Arya said through a mouthful of cheese. Don't talk with your mouth full, Evelina said automatically. But it is nice. I like when we're all together. Roman looked at Evelina over the twins' heads. There was a question in his eyes. She shook her head slightly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He nodded, accepting it. In May, the ownership structure of Roman's organization changed. He'd been working with the FBI and prosecutors for months, systematically dismantling the illegal operations and converting everything else into legitimate businesses. The shipping company became fully legal, properly licensed, transparent. The real estate holdings were restructured. The shell companies were dissolved, and Evelina, to her surprise, found herself invited to a meeting. "I want to offer you something," Roman said. They were in his office, smaller than his old one, less ostentatious. "A partnership in the shipping division. You've built an incredible consulting business. You understand logistics, finance, operations. I could use someone like you." "You want me to work with you?" "I want us to build something legitimate together, something our daughters can be proud of." Evelina considered it. "I'd need full transparency, complete access to all records, and I'm not giving up my medical practice or my consulting firm." "I wouldn't ask you to. And the twins come first, always. If there's ever a conflict the twins come first." "I agree." She studied him. This was the man who'd thrown her away 5 years ago, who'd believed lies over truth, who'd broken her heart in the rain. But he was also the man who'd spent 6 months showing up for his daughters, who'd cooperated with prosecutors even when it meant destroying his empire, who was genuinely trying to be better. "Equal partnership?" she asked. "Equal. I'll think about it." She did think about it. For 3 weeks. Talked to Thomas, to her lawyer, to James Hawthorne, ran the numbers, examined the books, made sure there was nothing hidden, nothing dirty. Everything checked out. In June, she signed the partnership papers. CCS International and Vail Logistics formed a joint venture. Evelina took control of operations and strategy. Roman handled client relations and expansion. Together, they built something neither could have managed alone. It wasn't romance. It wasn't reconciliation. It was just two people who destroyed each other learning to create something better. The girls thrived. First grade ended with both of them reading above level and making friends easily. Aria joined soccer. Elena started piano lessons. They spent weekends with Roman more often now, sometimes overnight at his new apartment. Evelina used that time to breathe, to rediscover who she was without constant vigilance, to sleep late and go out with friends and remember what it felt like to just exist. One Saturday in July, while the girls were with Roman, James Hawthorne stopped by her apartment. "Haven't seen you in a while," she said, letting him in. "You've been busy, thriving, from what I hear." "I am, thanks to you." "You did the hard part. I just helped you hide while you did it." They sat on her balcony with coffee, watching the city move below them. "I wanted to give you something," James said. He pulled out an envelope. "The final report. Everything we compiled on Victor. Everything we did. I'm closing the file." Evelina took it. Inside were copies of all the evidence, all the witness statements, all the careful work of 5 years. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because it's your story, not mine, and you should have it, in case you ever need to remember what you're capable of." She looked at the documents, at her mother's name in official reports, at Victor's confession, at the proof that she'd been right all along. Then she walked to the fireplace, unused in summer but there, and dropped the whole envelope in, lit a match. "What are you doing?" James asked. "Letting go." The papers caught, curling and blackening, 5 years of evidence and planning and revenge turning to ash. "I don't need to remember," Evelina said quietly. "I lived it, that's enough." They watched it burn together. In August, Roman asked Evelina to dinner. Just the two of them, no girls, no business talk. She almost said no, but something made her agree. They met at a quiet restaurant in the West Village, sat across from each other like strangers at first, unsure how to navigate this. "I've been thinking," Roman said after they'd ordered, "about everything that happened, everything I did wrong." "Roman, we don't have to I need to say this, please." Evelina nodded. "I was arrogant. I thought I knew everything, thought I could trust my instincts about people. And when Victor brought me that evidence against you, it confirmed what I was already afraid of, that you were too good for me, that you'd eventually see what I really was and leave." "So you left first?" "Yeah, I sabotaged it before you could. And I told myself I was being smart, protecting myself. But really, I was just a coward." Evelina took a sip of wine. "You were. I can't undo it. Can't take back the divorce papers or the accusations or the 5 years you spent alone. But I can tell you that I see you now, really see you, and I'm in awe of what you built, who you became. I became this because I had to, because you left me no choice. I know, and I hate that, but I'm grateful you survived it, that you're here. Where's this going, Roman? He met her eyes. I don't know. I'm not asking you to take me back. I know I don't deserve that, but I'm asking if maybe someday we could be friends, real friends, not just co-parents or business partners, people who actually like each other. Evelina considered this. I don't know if I can trust you again. I understand. But I'm willing to try, for the girls, and maybe for us too. That's all I'm asking. They finished dinner talking about safer things, the business, the girls' upcoming school year, plans for the holidays. It was easy, surprisingly, comfortable in a way it hadn't been in years. When Roman walked her to her car, he stopped. Thank you, he said, for giving me a chance, for letting me know them, for not completely writing me off. You earned it, barely, but you did. He smiled. I'll keep earning it, however long it takes. September came, and with it, a surprise. The medical board contacted Evelina about a position, head of trauma surgery at a new hospital in Manhattan. Prestigious, well paid, the kind of opportunity that came once in a career. She'd have to cut back on the consulting work, would have less time for the business. But it was medicine, real medicine, the work she'd trained for that she loved. She called Roman. They offered me the job. That's incredible. Are you taking it? I want to, but it means less time with the shipping business. So take it, I can manage. We're equal partners. And as your equal partner, I'm telling you to take the job. We'll figure out the business side, but this is your dream. Don't give it up. Evelina felt something shift in her chest. Gratitude, maybe. Or respect. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just save some lives and make the rest of us look bad. She took the job, started in October. The work was intense, demanding, everything she remembered and more. She ran a department of 12 surgeons, oversaw hundreds of trauma cases, made split-second decisions that meant life or death. And she was brilliant at it. The twins adjusted. They had Roman now, picking them up from school on days Evelina worked late, helping with homework, showing up to soccer games and piano recitals. They had a life that was full and stable and, despite its unconventional shape, healthy. In November, the twins turned 6. They had a huge party this time. Friends from school, teachers, neighbors. And for the first time, both Evelina and Roman stood together, lighting the candles, singing happy birthday, watching their daughters blow them out with identical expressions of joy. Later, after the guests left and the girls were in bed, Roman helped Evelina clean up. This was good, he said, throwing away paper plates. It was. They're happy. Both of them. They are. You did that. Built this life for them. I'm just lucky you let me be part of it. Evelina stopped cleaning and looked at him. You're part of it because you chose to be. You could have walked away after Victor's trial, could have decided it was too hard or too complicated, but you didn't. I couldn't. They're my daughters, and you're... He stopped. I'm what? You're the strongest person I've ever met, and I'm sorry it took losing you for me to see that. Evelina felt tears prick her eyes. Not sad tears. Something else. I'm not who I was, she said quietly. The woman you married. She's gone. I know, but the woman you are now is pretty amazing too. We're not getting back together, Roman. I know. But we're okay. As friends, as co-parents, as business partners, we're okay. That's enough. More than enough. They finished cleaning in comfortable silence. December brought the holidays again. This year, they spent Christmas together, Evelina, Roman, and the twins. Not as a family in the traditional sense, but as something new, something built from ruins. They exchanged gifts, watched the girls open presents with abandon, made breakfast together, fumbling around the kitchen in a way that was awkward but not unpleasant. This is weird, right? Roman said, flipping pancakes. So weird. But good? Yeah, good. The new year arrived with possibility. Evelina's hospital work continued to thrive. The business grew, the twins flourished, and slowly, carefully, Evelina rebuilt trust with Roman. Not romantic trust. That was gone, probably forever. But a different kind. The kind that came from seeing someone change, from watching them do the work. In February, a journalist contacted her about Victor's case. They wanted to write a feature about the woman who'd brought down one of New York's most dangerous criminals, about the surgeon who'd spent 5 years gathering evidence while raising twins and building an empire. Evelina said no. "I'm not interested in being a story," she told the journalist. "What happened to me was real, not entertainment. But people should know. People don't need to know. The people who matter, my daughters, my mother's memory, the truth, they already know. That's enough." She hung up and never looked back. By spring, life had settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable. Evelina worked 4 days a week at the hospital, spent the fifth managing the business. Had the twins every night, with Roman taking them on weekends to give her time to herself. She'd started dating someone, a colleague from the hospital, quiet and kind, with no connections to her past. It wasn't serious yet, but it was something. A reminder that she could have a future that wasn't defined by what she'd lost. The twins met him once, briefly. Arya pronounced him okay. Elena reserved judgment. Roman, when he heard, just said, "You deserve to be happy," and meant it. In May, Evelina took the girls to visit her mother's grave. They were old enough now to understand some of what had happened. Not everything, not the full scope of Victor's betrayal or the years Evelina had spent planning revenge, but enough. "Your grandmother was brave," Evelina told them, kneeling between the two girls. "She found out something bad was happening and she tried to stop it. That took courage." "Did it work?" Arya asked. "Not right away. But eventually, yes. The bad things stopped." "Because of you?" Elena asked. "Because of a lot of people working together. But yes, I helped." They left flowers, daisies, Elena's favorite, and stood there for a few minutes in silence. "I wish we could have met her," Elena said quietly. "Me too, baby, but she's part of you, both of you. Her strength, her kindness, her spine." "What's a spine?" Arya asked. "It's what keeps you standing when everything else wants to knock you down." On the drive home, Elena said, "Mommy, are you happy now?" Evelina glanced in the rearview mirror. "Yes, sweetheart, I am." "Good. You deserve to be happy." The words, coming from her 6-year-old daughter, made Evelina's throat tight. "Thank you. So do you. Both of you." "We are happy," Arya said confidently. "We have you and Roman and our friends and school and everything." It was true. They did have everything. Not the everything Evelina had imagined 6 years ago, standing in the rain at her mother's grave, but something better, something real. In June, the business hit its 5-year anniversary. Evelina and Roman threw a small celebration for their employees. 30 people now, spread across 3 offices. A legitimate operation that had grown from nothing into something substantial. 5 years, Roman said during his speech. 5 years ago, I was at my lowest. I destroyed everything that mattered, and I didn't think I'd get a second chance. He looked at Evelina across the room. But someone I hurt very badly decided I deserved another shot. Not because I earned it, but because she's better than I am, kinder, stronger, and I'm grateful every day that she let me rebuild. The employees applauded. Evelina raised her glass in acknowledgement, but didn't speak. This was Roman's moment, his redemption story. Hers had been written quietly, in hospital shifts and bedtime stories and board meetings where she proved she belonged. That night, alone in her apartment after the twins were asleep, Evelina opened her laptop. She pulled up the file she'd created 6 years ago, the one labeled Victor Soren, Evidence. She'd backed it up in 3 separate locations, encrypted and secure, just in case. But she didn't need it anymore. She deleted it, permanently, wiped it from every backup. Then she closed her laptop and went to bed. The next morning was Saturday. Roman picked up the girls for their weekend together. Evelina had the whole day to herself. She went for a run, got coffee, sat in the park and read a book. Simple things, normal things, the kind of life she'd been fighting for without even realizing it. That evening, her phone rang. Roman. Hey, is everything okay? Everything's fine. The girls wanted to tell you something. Arya's voice came on the line, excited and breathless. Mommy, we went to the aquarium and saw the big shark, and Elena was scared, but I wasn't, and Roman bought us stuffed dolphins, and we had ice cream, and… Slow down, baby. Sounds like you had fun. The best fun. Can we go back sometime? Sure. We'll plan it. Elena's quieter voice replaced Arya's. Hi, Mommy. Hi, sweetheart. You okay? Yeah, I wanted to tell you I love you. Evelina's eyes stung. I love you too, so much. I know. Roman says you're the best mom in the world. He said that? Yeah, he said we're lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one. When Roman got back on the line, Evelina said, Thank you for today, for all of it. They're easy to love. I know, but still. Thank you. After she hung up, Evelina stood at her window, looking out at the city lights. 6 years ago, she'd been broken, discarded, standing in the rain with nothing but grief and fury. Now she was here, chief of trauma surgery, co-owner of a thriving business, mother to 2 incredible daughters, friend to the man who'd once destroyed her. Victor was in prison. Her mother's name was cleared. Justice had been served. But more than that, she'd survived. Not just survived, thrived, built a life from ashes, became someone stronger than the woman who'd been thrown away. And that, Evelina thought, was the real victory. Not the revenge, not the empire, not even the justice. The victory was standing here whole and happy, knowing that nothing and no one could ever break her again. She'd been tested in fire and come out steel, and that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.